Union of the Unknowns, a podcast dedicated to the exploration of modern culture, presents a weekly digest of current events that may have slipped past your radar. This is not your mama's news.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Union of the Unknowns presents Not Your Mama's News. With me today, I have the other unknowns, Stella Q from Down Under. How are you, Stella?
Very good. Huck 2, still unknown.
Very glad to hear it. And then we have Big Perm. Hey, Perm, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Yes, I'm happy to be here with you fine people, and I'm excited to get into our show. And I think that we are going to kick it off with Perm's story. What do you have for us, Perm?
All right. My story has to do with actually the most famous Jeffrey Epstein accuser, Virginia Giuffre. A story came across my desk a couple days ago that caught my eye, and then since then it's been getting weirder and weirder. So I want to start off with an Instagram post that she posted a couple days ago. It said, "This year has been the worst start to a new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details. But I think it's important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They're giving me 4 days to live, transferring me to a specialist hospital in urology, and I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time. But you know what they say about wishes, shit in one hand and wish in the other. I guarantee it's still going to be shit at the end of the day. Thank you all for being wonderful people of the world and for being a great part of life. God bless you all, Virginia." So in my mind, I'm thinking, of course, they take out, the biggest Epstein accuser right around the time everybody's talking about where's the Epstein files and all that. But today I started seeing articles and posts kind of questioning this story, saying like it doesn't look like it's turning out to be the way she's saying it was. And now we're finding on February 2nd, she was charged with breaching a family violence restraining order in Ocean Reef near Perth, Australia. And she was scheduled to appear in court on April 9th. One of the articles said that there was a car accident, but it was a minor collision and that there were no injuries. And then also another article stating that Giuffre is reportedly undergoing a divorce from her husband, Robert, and is experiencing estrangement from her children, contributing to her emotional distress. So I think all this stuff added up together she might be having some kind of emotional breakdown. And apparently today, or since posting that Instagram post, she said that she didn't mean to actually post that publicly. Also, for those who aren't familiar with Virginia, she's most famous or most recognizable in a picture with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell when she was a teenager.
Yep, absolutely. So when the story first came out, of course, a lot of people were talking about it, noticing it, and have the same kind of thinking as you, Perm, as okay, so what is really going on here? Are they trying to take her out? And it would be plausible. And I was just thinking about her in the last couple of days, wondering why was she allowed to be okay, unharmed? Why is she allowed, after speaking out against Epstein, Prince Andrew, Ghislaine, and Alan Dershowitz, why are they just letting her live her life down in
Yeah, I've
Australia?
always wondered how she was still around.
Yeah.
Yeah, great
Uh,
points. Great
yeah,
points.
with her husband and her children. And then the other thing is that so yes, people were wondering, but a lot of people were actually reserving judgment because they were like, this sounds weird. The story sounds weird, just like what you said. How would a doctor know that you only have 4 days to live with injuries due to your kidneys and that you're in renal failure? Like, they could identify that, of course, but assigning a timeline to that and not even bringing up like potentially a dialysis or a transplant or something, it didn't really make sense to people. And then, like what Perm is saying, some other stuff started coming out and people were like, wait, you didn't mean to post this to your international audience.
Yeah.
And some people had questioned if she was trying to guilt her children into coming to see her, which I don't know the age of her kids, but I was wondering how things were with her husband. And it makes me sad to hear that they're going through a divorce, because he had been the person that she actually met when Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein had sent her to Thailand to study massage. That is who she met that basically took her out of that situation, or so the story goes. And they've been together ever since. And then, of course, have the children. I think she's a mother of 3. So it makes me sad that that's the situation. And of course, if she is having some kind of mental break and she's being manipulative here or something like that, then I don't, I don't think it's healthy and it's not good for her or her children. But I'm not hating on her for that, because if she truly has been through what we have heard she's been through, that's absolutely devastating. And who knows what kind of fallout we would have emotionally from that in general, and then having the legal battles. And the other thing was that her case with Prince Andrew ended up in her getting a payout. And I don't think that the amount that she was paid out was ever disclosed, but she also made allegations. She's one of the few people that actually named her abusers. And she very specifically said that Alan Dershowitz, who is generally a conservative, are conservative, and he's in some of the Republican circles, attorney, and he has denied it. He's made excuses, whatever, but nothing ever came from that. So it's a very weird situation.
The other thing I was thinking was like, if the accident was that bad, would she be like laying there playing on her phone? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I don't know. I mean, to me, it almost sounds like, I mean, you raise a great point. Why the heck is she still alive, especially with those sort of stakes, you know? I hate to be this cynical, but I'm going to be, because you know me. She might have married her handler, you know. She may not have even realized that she was marrying her handler, so to speak. I just think it's kind of weird how she was sent there by the Epstein, you know, crew to learn all that stuff. And then she marries this guy, and I didn't even know that they were living in Perth, Australia, actually. They're living in a mansion, apparently. So obviously the payout was decent. I don't think they generally disclose payouts for anything.
well, and this is why we love you, Stella, because I didn't even think about that angle.
Right, but yeah, I mean the posting. Oh, oops, I've just posted something publicly. I mean, who does that? Oops.
Right.
It
I mean,
seems
to
to
me, you're not going
happen
to post.
more often than it should. That's for sure.
Yeah, well,
I will
fits the
say
narrative,
that
doesn't it?
I have texted. I was texting somebody just yesterday, and I texted the wrong person. Like, I had the wrong message pulled up.
I hate that.
It wasn't bad or anything, but I was just like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to send you that. So
Yeah.
it does happen. I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to just rip you to complete shreds and
I
leave
think
you with nothing left in
texting
this
the
planet.
wrong person is a bit different than writing a 2-paragraph Instagram post with a picture of you looking all beat up in a hospital bed.
Yeah, very
True,
much
true. But what if she was like, oh, like we are on StreamYard, right? Like, oh, I want to stream to YouTube, Rumble, and Twitch. And so, like, what if she has some sort of a manager and it's like it goes everywhere? Oops, I didn't mean to put Twitter on
Yeah.
there. I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
there's a good chance she didn't even post it herself.
It's
Exactly.
possible.
Yep.
It is possible.
100%.
So,
It all
okay.
fits into clown world really nicely, actually, doesn't it?
It does, because it got people's hackles up for sure concerning this issue. And then I think it also ties back in to the okey doke that was pulled on us by them. And I'm not saying that I thought they were going to do this, but basically the Trump administration promised transparency with the Epstein files. We saw what a debacle that was. No information that was not already known was released, and we haven't heard anything else about it. So, and this is why, and Jen is in the chat. Shout out, Jen. Thank you for joining us. But he's
Good to see
talking
you.
about Pam Bondi, and Pam Bondi was the person in the administration that was supposed to be facilitating that. And of course, it went to a bunch of conservative grifters, the Epstein binders, as they were called. But yeah, my understanding was that Virginia's husband was Australian, and that was what took them there. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to admit, my immediate thought when I first heard this thing was definitely the same as everyone else, Timu by Diana sort of thing. But there was something about the photo too that kind of looked a bit fake. I was sort of wondering, it looks a little bit like makeup, actually.
I was
like
thinking
Hollywood.
the same thing, or some kind of filter.
Yeah.
At the same
Anyway.
time, too, I've been looking at the picture of her with Prince Andrew and the picture from today. And I mean, obviously, people change from 17 to 41, but there's no
41,
guarantee that that's the same person.
I also had that thought. I thought she looks a little young for what she should look now, and I was thinking, okay, maybe she's put a filter in to try to make her injuries look more appealing. But yeah, I didn't realize she's 41. Okay, but yeah, she sort of looked. I don't know. She hadn't aged enough for that sort of thing. She looked still very young, but then filters.
Yeah, it is possible. It's very possible. And who knows in today's day and time, and who knows, like, was it an accident? Is this whole thing some sort of,
distraction?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe
Well, I
part
mean,
of her
with
contract.
AI as well. With AI, it's like, is she even alive still? Like,
Yeah, fair point.
did they unalive her somewhere? Uncoupled with life, consciously. And then we're looking at AI. That's the thing. We don't know anything anymore. We can't believe anything we hear, see, or even probably feel. Who knows?
Yeah, looking at that picture in the hospital bed, if I had to guess, I would say that was AI.
It did look fake somehow. But everything looks fake now anyway, even people. So
at the very least, it could have been a filter that she applied. But who knows? Yeah, we don't actually know. We just know what the story is. And then I think that what we can do is ask why we're seeing it. Now, of course, she has a big following, especially on Twitter. People are paying attention to what she said. People have definitely been on high alert about the Epstein stuff. People probably are wondering how she was allowed to, how they didn't end up taking her out. So we don't really know. But there are other victims that were prominent from this as well. Maria Farmer, who were allowed, insofar as we know, to keep existing. And so I don't know. Strange situation though. And I guess we'll see if anything else comes out. But I had not heard any of the details about, like, basically the domestic violence charge, or the fact that she was supposed to be going through a divorce and estranged from her children. And so
Were you saying Virginia has a lot of followers on Twitter?
Yeah, or her message got out pretty quick.
That must have been just from Instagram, because I can't find a profile for her on Twitter.
Oh, really?
And there is one that says Robert's profile, but it only has 3,100 followers, so I don't know how legit that is.
I mean, I'm sort of thinking along the lines of, as well, like in the bigger picture, they want to take out the old structure, right? Now, that includes the monarchy. So this is a very long-term investment, this whole take down the world plan. We know that. It's been around for, you could say, centuries. I'm sort of going rewind mode at the moment and thinking it's absolutely viable that this whole thing, Virginia could have been an MK, whoever, set up all this time to actually set up Prince Andrew, and then later on bring her back onto the stage and take him down, as part of the monarchy dismantling.
Sure.
It's absolutely completely viable. Yeah, the way they work. I mean, they have patience. It's one thing they have is patience and time.
Yeah, his mom's not around to protect him anymore.
That's right. Yep. And his dad probably doesn't really give much of a shit because he's got sausage fingers. So who knows?
Yeah, I definitely think that's possible. I mean, we see a lot of times people being made examples of, and that's perhaps applicable in the same way to the royal family for sure. And I do know that he had some consequences when um when the queen was still living. He was stripped of his titles and things like that, but I don't really know what his relationship is like with Charles at this time, but certainly it has caused damage
Oh,
to
yeah.
the reputation, at least for some people. Some people completely ignore it, and I don't want to make it sound like they had huge ramifications, because we still have royals out here and they're following everything that they do, and they really haven't suffered because of their actions. But in some circles, certainly the reputation of the royal family was damaged by Prince Andrew.
Andrew was a very naughty boy.
Oh,
Yes, he
indeed.
was.
Randy Andy, as they called him.
Yes, it's not very becoming for a prince.
He's also not capable of sweating, apparently.
Right.
Even though he was sweating his ass off on that interview.
An old war
Funny.
injury.
It's royal sweat.
Yeah.
It's sacred. Gather it. It's holy sweat.
So it's a weird situation. This whole story, I'm glad he brought it up, Perm, because I thought it was interesting, and I think a lot of us were wondering what's going on here. What is really going on here?
Yeah, I don't typically like to get into the more political stories lately, but I felt like this one needed to be covered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've been doing the less heavy stories mostly, but yeah.
Well, a lot of the bigger stuff is getting covered elsewhere, right? So we that's one of the things that I really like about this show, is us bringing whatever you want to talk about, and it doesn't have to be a big story, and it is refreshing for people. And I have heard that feedback, that it's refreshing for people to not always be talking about the same thing that the other shows are talking about. So
yeah, I don't know. It was a bloody mess, that whole monarchy. I mean, as Jim's just as Jin in the chat is just bringing up now about Mr. Jimmy Sav. What an abhorrent creature that thing was. What the heck was he staying, hanging around the?
I mean,
Why
not
was
just
that not
hanging
questioned
around. I
more?
think he had a key to Buckingham Palace. That he was
Oh yeah.
he was best friends with the whole family.
100%. He was like a wedding advisor, basically, to
He was a
Charles and
confidant.
Diana.
Yeah.
It was very
What's with that?
disturbing. Very disturbing what he did. But the other thing about that is that it's one node, in my opinion. Same with Epstein. One node in a gigantic network. And, we know
Yeah.
that. We know that the royal family is involved in that. And we even see that with the people that they are rubbing elbows with. We know that the Rothschilds, for example, are at the top of the known kind of pyramid for the predator class, right? And we know that these families that consider themselves to be elite, they interbreed with one another in order to preserve the bloodline, and that has overlap with royalty. And then these people are friends and confidants, and they hang out together, and it's an overlap even with the inversion situation that we see with Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, because they are, well, there's some pretty convincing evidence that they are related to each other, first of all. Second of all, that Brigitte is a man. I mean, that I know everybody knows that, but I'm just saying, look at the inversion, look at the overlap of these circles of these people that know each other, that protect each other, and they practice all of this really insane stuff. So the royal
circle
family is
jerking. Yeah, it's very strange.
no exception from that, and they have many ties to different abuse and all kinds of scandals. And of course, that stuff gets covered up and brushed under the rug, but we know about it.
David Icke looks a little bit less crazy every day with his reptilian theory. And I am joking, but, it just, it's like they've come from the same batch of reptilian eggs.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Hatched them.
possible. I
Yeah.
don't discount anything nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Same.
I
I don't
wasn't with you
either.
on chemtrails when we first started hanging out.
What's that? Sorry, mate?
I said I wasn't originally with you on the chemtrails when we first started hanging out, but
Yeah, right.
my whole
Mm.
life is different than back pre-COVID.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Was that a flip or what?
And I mean,
Yeah.
I was
Many,
already awake, but not compared to now.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
many such cases. And then Jen was saying the same Scientology story. Absolutely. There, and we know that there's a lot of overlap with Scientology, intelligence, um, the process, all the things. I
Yep.
mean, it's a very convoluted web. So
Look, I agree with you, Jen. They use magic. Absolutely, they do. I mean, that's why we keep seeing all these consistent mystery things like the numbers and the dates and the names, all those things. I mean, I do wonder how much of that stuff they plant just to keep us all busy podcasting about it. You know what I mean? Like feed the lot sort of thing, feed the fodder bag.
I was in the
But at
middle
the
of a
same
podcast.
time, it is
Go
actually
ahead.
a structure. Sorry, mate. It is actually a structured thing. So I think it's just a matter of really just muddying the waters. You know, putting a bit of fog around the cauldron, sort of thing.
Yeah, and with the
Sorry.
magic and everything, I was in the middle of a podcast before we started listening, or I was listening to one, and the guy had mentioned that Jimmy Savile was like saying Latin phrases while he was assaulting his victims, like speaking in Latin.
Yeah, right. Ugh,
Who knows what he was
that's
saying, obviously,
that's
but
spirit driven for sure.
for sure.
right. And well, this is something that I think is important because I think that that would indicate some sort of a ritual to that abuse, right? So that's one of the things that we hear about over and over and over is the abuse that has happened in a lot of the cases that we know about and a lot of them that are lesser known, but there's a ritual aspect to that abuse. So yes, I do think that intelligence is involved in a lot of this stuff. However, that is the part that makes me think that is much more ancient than what we know about. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about like the 1600s when the original Rothschild first just started the idea of banking, and ever since all they've done is win and make money. I think this is truly an ancient thing. And so I obviously I don't know, but I think it could give credence to these ancient bloodlines, ancient lineage. And how do we know what knowledge they have or they don't have, right? If they are survivors, if they are, for example, in like Jason of Archaics talks about that there are people who do understand and know about these resets. And he's a simulation theorist guy, right? And
Mm.
he thinks that some people have figured out a way to crack the code and to hang around. So how do we know that it's not them? And how is that discernible then, lizard people, really? And maybe
Absolutely.
maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. So it's crazy. It's a crazy rabbit hole. That's for sure.
Well, all that ancient history stuff that's going around. I mean, it's very popular at the moment, and there's just so many different cross theories where this thing sort of negates that thing, and this thing neutralizes that, and so the truth is somewhere in there, or somewhere out there, I should say. It's actually more somewhere in there, another inversion. But yeah, it is definitely. I think we can all agree that there's been lies about our history. And it's even some of the things that have become quite popular, some of the things like Tartaria, there's a lot of bullshit in that as well. So we've got to be careful because now we're kind of the more we get to a pointy kind of end, we've got to really our discernment has to be sharp, and you only sort of get that through sorting out. Well, I was going to say prayer, but not everybody prays, but that's how I sort of rely on for mine. But yeah, you've got to be really just be less frivolous about what you hear, I guess, because it really is getting to that point of the whole psyop is to own our minds and make everything so confusing and so foggy that we just give up on it all. We just go, yeah, whatever. And then everything just goes through with no thought or question or anything because it's just like, it's all bullshit now. We're so close to that already. It's been
I
so
feel
fast.
I feel like that's how I've felt so much in recent, maybe 6 months to a year, about just all hidden history in general. Like, I feel like there's so much speculation and it never goes anywhere. And I just like, I'm so burnt out from hearing it. Anytime somebody has a hidden history expert on, I'm like, here we go. Like, what?
Well, that's what sets Archaics apart, is because he does bring receipts with really old books and things, whereas I don't see the others sort of really doing that so much. It's just like, just take my word for it. I haven't got anything to show you. Whereas, Jason actually shows you the old things and he puts it together on a mathematical scale, many different facets, not just one thing that he's saying. So that's what sets him apart.
The other
Yeah,
thing
and
that I like
I've
about
listened to him a
Jason,
couple times. I can't get past his tone. Like,
Yeah, a lot of people have trouble with that, but you get used to it eventually.
maybe I
Actually, it
need to
sends me to
listen
sleep.
some more
I quite
times.
like listening to him as I'm
yeah.
drifting off.
The other thing about him that I like is that he addresses questions. So a lot of people you'll see, if they're being gatekeepers or they're coming with a message that is not genuine, they don't address the questions that people have. But that is one thing that's different about Jason. And, don't agree with him or whatever, but at the very least, people ask questions and he addresses those concerns. He doesn't just gatekeep and hide and just ignore, which I think is a big thing when somebody is, if they are truly knowledgeable and they're doing the research, then they are not going to mind answering questions about things that don't make sense or when people ask for clarification. But a lot of people will do that when they are kind of peddling something, they don't stand up to the critique, and a lot of times they will ignore, or if they get busted on something, they'll just delete it and you won't even have access to it anymore.
Yeah, or they'll
So
just sort of they'll kind of disappear into the weeds for a little while, and then they'll come back a few months later, and everyone's kind of forgotten about what they did, because it's like, oh yeah, somebody did something like that, but I can't remember who it was.
yeah.
I know because I do it, but
Yeah, and exactly. That's what the Trump administration has done, right? They gave this is I'm 100% convinced that they gave those people the Epstein binders for them to have their little photo shoot with the binders and then never plan to address it again, ever.
Yeah.
I'm convinced of that. That's the same playbook that you're talking about. Just, put it out there, go away, don't address it, come back and move on and act like it never happened.
Yeah, because if ever anyone questions it, they say, well, we brought the files out. We did what we said we were going to do. It's like, yeah, we ticked that box a while ago. Catch up,
Yep.
It's like, well, what comes of it?
And the other thing is,
and why is Hillary still walking around free, by the way?
100%. And actually, that was one of the stories that I had looked at, that her and Bill were at the World Economic Forum, and Bill received like a President of the Century award or something ridiculous like that. But yeah, she's still fine. She's out there living her best life, hating on free speech, wanting us to get locked up for saying what we think. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that it truly is part of a psychological war and a war technique against us, is to have so much stuff out there, whether it's true or it's false or whatever it is, as long as it's dividing you, it's keeping people bickering, it's keeping people wondering. I mean, that is a psychological war technique. It's a way to disarm your enemy, us, without a shot ever being fired. Now, not that
100%.
not that they're afraid of firing a shot, but I think that will come at another time, maybe. But in the
I think
meantime, disarm as much as you possibly can, and that goes. Sorry, Stella, just real
no,
quick.
sorry, I thought you finished.
But that goes with the other many ways that we're under attack. So we're under attack with pollution. We're under attack with big pharma. We're under attack with our food supply. We're under attack from not only poison food, but the goal of continually getting to the point where they control the food. And we know that. We see that they want you to have the Impossible Burger and you will eat the bugs and all this stuff. So it's just being under attack from a million different ways, including that psychological warfare. Mind war,
Well,
yes.
the attack is psychological. That's all it is, because I don't think they're ever going to make us eat bugs, to be honest. I think all this stuff that they've been putting out that we all do podcasts about. It's just the whole distraction, the sort of the shiny object, whatever, so they can get on with their other stuff in the background. But, accountants got to warfare, didn't they? It's like, hang on, guys, you don't have to spend all this money and do all this stuff. You could just do the mind thing. It's like, oh, yeah. So it's working perfectly. It doesn't mean that they've cut out all the other things. It's an extra added bonus. It's a bit of icing on the war cake. Propaganda and stuff is nothing new, of course. It's been around for donkey's years, look at World War One and Two. But that was massively reliant on propaganda. And now that we've all woken up, they sort of have to, I suppose, move on to, because we're all a bit smarter, even the dumb ones, because of technology and social media and getting more stuff getting out and more people hearing things. But of course, with that comes more rubbish in the water as well, doesn't it? So that's their best form of defence, is they can't cover the truth anymore. So they've just got to spew out enough verbal vomit and all that sort of stuff to just drown the truth. So it's a little bit harder to find. Who wants to wade through all that vomit? So yeah,
yeah, for
Living
sure.
an ocean of vomit.
And we have a good chat tonight. We have Jen, we have Sir Tim of the Tunnels, we have Joe Tundra. Thank you
Yay.
guys for joining us so much. We truly appreciate you. And they're hip to it, so they understand what we're talking about. And definitely, like what Stella was saying, these ideas have been out here for a very long time. And look at Sun Tzu. Part of, and that is a very old text, right? And the idea of that is to do some of the same things that are being done to us right now. Disarm the enemy before you really even need to fight them. So I do think it is a time for discernment. The other thing that I think is that it is intentionally being more difficult to see the truth. And the other thing that has been so masterful by the people pulling the puppet strings is hurting people into their choice of reality. And I'm not necessarily talking about us in the truth community who are looking for the truth and who are trying to use discernment and who are trying to figure out, is this fake? Because the thing is that you actually are having the question about, is this real? Is this fake? Now, you may not always be right, but at least you're open to having your paradigm moved. And I think that is a really important thing. But what we see, especially in the States, is the idea of these people on the right or the left. We know that they have them in the box. And even though it's honestly a complete mess and there's so much overlap, for example, you have Elon Musk who's saying that he's a Trump supporter and he's MAGA and he's this and he's that. But no, he's not. He's a technocrat. So you've lost any value of what it would be to be a conservative person. What did being conservative mean 40 years ago versus what MAGA is saying now, right? Or those people on the right. And that's the other thing. They fractured the parties because you have MAGA, you have never Trumpers, you have conservatives, you have Zionists. And so you have like all these Venn diagrams. It's truly a mess. But the point is that they have people fighting on Facebook, separating from their families. We know that they did that over COVID. We know that they're doing that over politics. We know that people are posting on Facebook, if you voted for Trump, unfriend me, whatever. And both sides are doing this to each other. So that is the really important thing, is getting people into whatever their chosen reality is and refusing to budge, even though we here understand that there's a lot going on here. So we have the, like what we were talking about and what Stella was talking about when you had your conversation with Monica and Clint, psyop within a psyop within a psyop. Yes, that exists for sure. And then the other thing that we know and is part of the playbook is revelation of the method. So that the concept of that is really interesting to me. But anyway, we got a lot going on. I went on a ramble. Sorry about that, everybody. But
no, that's what we're here for.
Okay,
I
good.
enjoyed your room.
Good.
You all right? You okay? Take a breath, have a drink, grow a beard, have a cigar. Yeah.
I'm going to decline your offer to grow a beard. No, thank you.
Give it another 30 years. Yeah. Yes, the accountants definitely got to the warfare for sure. For sure. It's all one great big psyop soup, isn't it?
Yeah. Gentleman Skeptic says the psyop onion.
Yeah, yes.
Layers upon layers. And then Jen is saying Elon is a Scientologist, star seed, no cap. And I'm here for that theory. I would not be surprised at all. And this is something that's actually been in the ether lately, is that you have these secret Scientologists, but they will have like small threads, small associations. And certainly the association with intelligence is an indicator. So it's crazy times here, people. That's what we're saying.
Do you know what Jin's talking about there with Kid Rock wearing red and two eagles?
I do. So I wish that I may see if I can pull that up, but this past week, I think
I'm working on it.
this week. Okay. Perm's gonna try to find it. But yesterday, Kid Rock was in the office, and he in the presidential Oval Office or whatever,
Oh, okay.
and he was making it look like truly idiocracy. It's honestly truly idiocracy. He's dressed up. There's so much overlap with the president in that movie from how Kid Rock was dressed yesterday. But also, of course, thank you, Jen, pointing out the symbology of how he was dressed.
Okay.
Did you find it
I
yet,
know
Perm?
nothing about this, so I'm hearing it all for the first time.
Oh, do you have it?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, just hit a request and I will.
Isn't it interesting? Okay, so Kid Rock has been in the Oval Office, and that just reminds me of, hang on, this deja vu, except the other one was Kanye. Remember? I mean, why do they do this? Why do they integrate? There's some symbology in there, isn't there, Jin? They're integrating these huge music people.
For sure.
Ted Nugent would never have a bar of it. Go Ted. Ted for
Yeah,
Ted for
for
president.
sure. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of layers to that, but these people are symbols in and of themselves. And certainly there is a divisiveness, particularly in Kanye West, discussing making America great and being a Trump ally. That is very, divisive and controversial. Less so with Kid Rock. Here we go.
I wonder if he'll go, oh my gosh, that's a bit loud.
Yes.
You could hear him coming before you see him. Wow. Okay. Very, very patriotic. Rather.
Yep. So if you're watching, we
Thanks.
have the we shared that briefly of Kid Rock, and Jim was pointing out the double eagle, which is a bit occult on his outfit, and honestly, it looked like a modern day Elvis in the way that he was dressed. It's not exactly a sequined jumpsuit, but it's not that far off, and he definitely looks like President Camacho from Idiocracy. So
I also
Red Pillar.
heard someone compare him to Evel Knievel.
yeah, it was giving Evel Knievel for sure.
Well, isn't that interesting? So there weren't actually buses involved then? That's the Evel Knievel thing, is it?
Yes, the motorcycle, he was on the motorcycle and he would jump over a lot of things.
I know who Evel, but there was nothing involved with buses and Kid Rock?
No, it was just the outfit we were talking about.
Just the analogy, okay.
Yeah.
No, I was nearly going to make a connection with Gouffre then for a moment, but that's me just going wild.
There probably is a connection. Who knows?
And then he was playing music on the White House piano as well that day.
Was he playing the blues? So he's got the red suit in the White House playing the blues.
I didn't listen to it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'll have to have a look at that one just for fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I might have to check it out because honestly, as much of a joke as he can be, he's one of the best musicians of a generation as far as like he's actually a great musician. Like I've seen him live in concert multiple times and he goes around on stage and plays every instrument and like he's really into music. He's not just the joke that he comes off as.
Yeah. Yep.
And he wasn't new to do this, but he was somebody who was kind of bringing it back in the early 2000s, the kind of this combination of rock and rap. That was kind of not exactly groundbreaking, but I mean, he certainly was important in that time as far as pop music goes and the impression that he was making on that generation of millennials.
Yeah, his early stuff was really like hip hop rock based, and then he
Mhm.
moved into the like country space and was really big in that too.
Yeah, hick hop is kind of
I've never
what
heard
it
that.
was.
That works.
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what they refer to that genre of like mixing rap and country. And you know,
Wow.
I'm not a fan. I'm a little bit of a country purist. Although there is some room there, not the rap element, but like a little bit of that southern rock. Obviously, I'm a fan of, and there is some overlap with southern rock and country, but
It's
anyway.
sort of interesting actually. It's only just now occurred to me that what they're doing with pretty much everything, like AI has sort of created this soup of taking the human meat out, sort of, so to speak, and AI can kind of cover a whole bunch of genres that people used to do, and politics is sort of this wishy-washy mix of, I mean, they're trying to separate it all now, but that and the truth has become a mix of a soup, everything diluted. Immigration is diluting culture, and now music is sort of being merged and diluted as well. It's like everything's just being diluted and turned into baby cack brown, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, to be owned by
got to hold on
megacorp.
to our individuality is the most important thing, I think.
Yep.
Stop being part of the hive, sort of, so to speak, as much as we can. It's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, that's why I have talked about this, is that it's megacorp, right? Like you used to have all of these different places that you could get X, Y, and Z, whether that was
Yeah.
music or shopping or whatever. But everything, and healthcare, everything is being consolidated up, 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 up. Food, everything, and it's all going to megacorp. So it's like,
Yep.
which is
Yeah.
basically BlackRock, or let's say like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street Continuum, whatever. What is even the difference? But basically, it all leads up to megacorp for everything, for your social media, for your news, for your phone, for all of your shopping, for even your homes, like everything. And is complete removal of like what you're talking about, of culture, of individuality, of the things that make regions and people and groups special and unique.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I agree with you, Tim. We'll know the end is here when Taylor Swift releases a heavy metal album. Can't wait for that one.
It's probably coming around the bend in today's crazy time. Who knows?
Yes, something to look forward to. Brilliant.
Oh, okay. Well, this has been fun riffing on this, and I always like doing that with you people. So, that's good. But I do
You
want
people.
to.
You
Yes,
people.
you people. Yes.
What do you mean, you people?
You know what I mean.
I was
Okay.
that chat that I was on with Clint and Monica the other day. I realised about halfway through, I was talking about Dews, DEWs, but it's totally sounded like Jews. It's like, oh yeah, the Jews want to kill us. It's like, oh no, I'm
I
going to get
thought,
done for that one.
oh yeah, I thought that's what you said. I was listening to it and I was like, yeah,
No,
the JQ is on everybody's mind. So you do you.
Uh-oh.
Go off, queen.
A bit like the intro to Brazil, where the fly lands on the typewriter, and instead of being tuttle, it becomes buttle, and then that just sets the whole scene for the rest of the movie. But anyway, yeah. If you don't hear from me soon, send help.
There you go.
Hey, I know
me.
we've gone really long on this topic, but since it has to do with sex charges or sex trafficking and of the like, I wanted to break some news, I guess. I don't
Sure.
know why this happens whenever I'm on Not Your
Better than
Mama's
breaking
News,
wind.
but apparently today Jean-Claude Van Damme charged in Romania with human trafficking charges, and it is going back to 10 years ago in Cannes, France. That's where they have the film festival. Knowingly using 5 Romanian women or girls that were sex trafficked, supposedly. allegedly, but this just came across my feed, so
Did you say
You know,
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I did.
and wasn't he living in Russia?
I think that was the other one. Steven Seagal.
Seagal. Okay.
I don't
Um,
know where Jean-Claude Van Damme lives.
He was, yeah. I quite liked him actually, but who
Yeah.
knows? You know, they're all famous for a reason, aren't they?
For sure. Let's see.
yeah.
He is from Belgium. I don't know where he lives.
I'm always sus about people from Belgium for some reason.
Interesting that you should bring up
In
Belgium.
Hong Kong.
So where he
is it
was
about
living,
He lives in Hong Kong, but this happened in Cannes. That's where they do the film festival every year.
Yeah, in France, yeah.
oh, so it was Cannes that he was arrested in?
Well, that's where this allegedly happened. It was Romanian girls in Cannes,
Okay.
and Romania is charging him with human trafficking.
Interesting. Because
It's, they're
that's
bringing a lot of these
also
famous
Romania
people
was
down.
also the country that was charging the Tate brothers
Right.
with human trafficking. So I wonder, should we be on the lookout for a resurgence and Jean-Claude Van Damme is all of a sudden like alt conservative, which is what I'm filing the Tate brothers, Candace Owens, and the people in that sort of category because they are known to be conservatives. However, they are the handful that are speaking out against Zionism and what is happening in the Middle East right now, but they're also like gatekeepers in other weird ways.
I had
So-
seen an uptick of like posts about him recently. They're posting like him dancing the same as he danced like 50 years ago or something like that, and it was all over like every social media, like him doing
I
the
just saw
exact
it
same dance.
yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday that I saw it.
Dancing in the old-fashioned way. Quaint.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. They're all going to be brought down eventually because they've got to make their exit down to the bunker, you know? So they're all going out in a spectacular fashion. They've probably got their scripts to follow. Possibly even Victoria Giuffre.
Yeah,
Giuffre?
and
Virginia.
Oh, Virginia, sorry.
Virginia Giuffre.
Get
yeah.
it right, Stella. Sheesh. Spreading all this misinformation. Lock her up.
And Jen said that he loves women and hookers. This is no
Oh,
secret.
do you, Jen?
Sir Tim said that the muscles from Brussels, a creep, pretends to be shocked, and that he also has been diagnosed as borderline personality disorder. Now,
okay.
a lot of weird stuff about
Yeah.
that. There is a huge amount of Brussels. Oh, I didn't mean to show myself. A huge amount of trafficking, like a very big case, the Dutroux affair that happened in Brussels. It's very much connected with this trafficking continuum. And then I would also be curious about somebody who was famous and who was also showing that they have borderline personality disorder. You know, what is the overlap with like dissociative identity or something like that, which are is a personality disorder that's known to occur in people that have been viciously sexually abused, particularly as children, and they have the ability to create this alter ego there. So,
So Joe's saying, remember, you need to have at least one accusation of being a pedo to get your welcome to the deep state pass. Yeah, that's probably the rite to passage for sure.
Yeah.
Or the humiliation ritual. I mean, they all go through stages, obviously. It's sort of like the Freemasonry thing, from what I can see.
And then Jen said that Candace's dad-in-law is in the British Zionist Council. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
She's
so
not... Sorry.
Exactly. That's what. So a lot of people are talking about Candace Owens lately, and she's very, very good at her job. And a lot of people, even in the truth space, are like, "Oh, so she's against she's against Zionists, so she's an op." And I'm like, no, it's not because she's speaking out against what's happened. It's because she is a fake. It is because she is a Pied Piper. Why do you think you have seen this surge in people feeling free to talk about the JQ and Zionism? And it has been given energy online on Twitter. Big accounts are allowed to talk about this. That's because there is a plan in place. First and foremost, they're making speech laws like crazy. They're cracking down on our First Amendment speech under the guise of preventing anti-Semitism, basically. So all that to say is that Candace is very good at her job, but she is a Pied Piper.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, 100%. I think she's got Tavistock sort of connections, has she not? It seems to be a vague memory in the back of my cerebral filing cabinet. Anyway,
I'm not
who
100%
knows?
sure. She definitely has Dennis PragerU connections. So there's a lot going on there. But anyway, all right, let's move
Agree.
on to our next topic, and that is Stella bringing some information about the pyramids. What do you have?
Very little. I was really, really hoping Terry was going to be here today to back me up with the technical side of radar, etc. But I'll give it a whack. So we've all probably heard of the okay. So let's start with this: Victoria Gouffre, or whatever her name is. What's her name? Virginia. Gouffre. I mean, that's a pretty big distraction. Like, the distraction levels seem to vary, and that's a reasonably big distraction. Would you agree? I mean, on distraction levels of 1 to 5, we're talking a pretty, DEFCON 4-ish.
I would say short term, it was big. For a long term, I think it's fading. So
yeah,
maybe we
yeah.
have
Lots
a
of short
rubric.
term things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So equally as big and distracting, in my opinion, is the whole pyramid find thing, which seems to be, again, creating more division for some reason. I mean, really, who cares in one way? I mean, I
would
care
say
in a
the pyramid
historical way.
find is a much bigger distraction than the Virginia Giuffre
Oh,
thing.
100%.
Just way less people are talking about Virginia.
Yeah, definitely. No, I totally agree. But they're still, they're ramping up the distraction, which just makes me go, what are they distracting us from? It's probably the intro of the CBDC, I'd say. That kind of the setting up the structure there. But either way, this supposed find under the pyramids is, I think it's a little bit overblown, personally, from what I'm seeing. It just seems to be a whole bunch of very intricate artists' imaginative renditions have been put together from something that's a little bit hard to read, actually. It's just like little graphs of infrared and feedback from the SAR, which is the synthetic
Aperture radar
aperture radar.
Doppler.
Thank you. I know Ed was also saying that. So the thing is that that particular radar can't really penetrate. It's not really a ground penetrating radar. It's not really what it's made for. So the mystery kind of is that within the paper that this dude, Biondi, I can't remember his name, I didn't write it down. I think his name was Biondi, Dr. Biondi, the archaeologist. Apparently, he's released this paper of the transcription of this finding, but he hasn't really included his methodology to be able to transform a SAR type data set into a ground penetration type data set. So it's like people are just going, well, how did he do that? Because you've kind of got to know the wavelength is very dependent on how deep these things go. Like, the smaller the wavelength, it's only going to, a SAR will only penetrate maybe the canopy of a forest, whereas if it's a larger wavelength, say 23 centimeters or something, that's going to go, it can go about a foot into the ground. So that's about as far down as it can go. So somehow these people have managed to incorporate some way of, I don't know how they've done it, penetrating further, if what they say is correct. But either way, I mean, there are tunnels and things under the pyramid. I have no doubt the Egyptian government have been keeping things quiet for a very long time, pretty much since the Howard Carter days. So they're only going to let things out as they see fit and as the narrative requires. But my point being that this is a very big distraction, which I think is sort of fairly, I don't know, I don't really want to say baseless, but I think it's a lot bigger than it should be. It's very speculative for something so groundbreaking, excuse the pun, but for something, I mean, this is the second pyramid from the 3 great pyramids in Giza. It's the Timu pyramids, second biggest. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. It's all speculation. It's all just what they're telling us. And as usual, they're not really letting out the full amount of information so other experts can fully dissect and examine the information. So I don't know. It just looks like a big distraction to me. I'm not getting too excited about it, even though these things do excite me. But I'm not getting too excited about it because I think it's just all, storm in a teacup sort of thing.
Yeah, for
Look over
sure.
here.
And yes, and I think, like you're saying, look over here because there's so many people that we are desperate to know the truth about something. And there's so much mystery out there. There's so many things that we don't know anything about that we want the truth, right? So I think that people are really willing and interested in hearing things. And it is a distraction in that way because they want to know. I did have a little bit, so I want to shout out my buddy SW because we actually had a conversation about this. Now, not that I fully understand, and that we've got a lot of good chat going on about the pyramids, and people understand a lot more than me. But sort of back to what Stella was saying, this particular paper is discussing the SARS, the synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. And in the abstract of this paper, it's saying a problem with the SAR is that due to the poor penetrating action of electromagnetic waves inside solid bodies, the capability to observe inside distributed targets is precluded. So I do think that it gives us at least a little bit of information saying that you don't really know. So if we're looking at inside targets, then I would think that that would be like the Hall of Diamonds or whatever they're saying that they're searching for. That may not be very accurate. Basically, exactly what Stella was saying. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is that the guy that is doing this doing the research that Stella was talking about, Filippo Biondi. And I was discussing this with my friend, and my friend was saying, I knew that I had heard some of this terminology before. And he actually thought that they were repeating a lot of the ways of speaking and talking about things as Maurice Doreal, who was born Claude Doggins. He was an American occultist and founder of the Brotherhood of the White Temple. And apparently he had done, I don't know if he was doing meditating, but basically he was describing a lot of these visions that he had been able to see the pyramids, see inside the pyramids, things like that. He had this cult. He was using a lot of the same terminology that this Biondi guy and his group of researchers are using to describe the space. So I just wanted to bring that up as a tie-in. Not that I'm an expert. Shout out to my buddy SW who had this conversation with me. And then also shout out to Jen because it also, when you're talking about this guy who had the cult, was able to see in, almost in a way, astral project. There's a
Like
lot of
remote viewing.
overlap. Remote viewing in a way, and it also has overlap with like a near-death experience. Although in my understanding of near death, you are limited on the knowledge that you can bring back. And this guy was basically saying that he brought back the knowledge. So I think that's where I get into question, I don't know. And maybe it is more of the astral projection or the remote viewing kind of thing. But anyway, I just wanted to point out sort of this occult tie-in to this project with the pyramids that we're currently seeing. And maybe that'll be some like interesting nuggets for people to look into and check out and see what you think about that.
Yeah. I sort of had this thought about, because that whole remote viewing thing has really come into the narrative, hasn't it? The old CIA, what was it? Project, something like Skylink or Sky something or something. Anyway, but the remote viewing is sort of like, well,
it was Stargate.
No, was it? No, it wasn't. It was another one. Damn it! I thought I wrote it down, but I can't find it anywhere. Anyway, it was a different name, but it was basically sort of similar. But that was about like remote viewing, and that's sort of come into our zeitgeist, right? And yet you look at Musk and their project Stargate and everything, and it's like, well, he's putting all these satellites up into space and everything right now. So really, And what they're doing they're doing all the space archaeology. This is another thing that the pyramid thing has brought into the zeitgeist or into our consciousness is the space archaeology that's going on. So it's all very space. Space is watching us. Space is out there monitoring, keeping us safe, blah, 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 blah. And, Elon's there. And that's Project Stargate, and Starlink. Is Starlink the link to the remote viewing that they're doing on us? It's nothing to do with being psychic. You know what I mean? Like Project Looking Glass. Yeah, I think that was a bit of a farce, actually. That was a whole Kerry Cassidy thing. I'm not really big on the Project Looking Glass. It sucked me in for a little while. Very interesting, but I think that was just another baseless distraction. Another CIA distraction,
Yeah.
I mean, you can go to the CIA secret room online and look up a whole bunch of, projects and things, which keeps the whole community chatter for a while,
Yeah.
and a few more episodes of podcasts coming out. It's good fodder.
Now,
But,
the Stargate project,
I just think there's so much psyop. There's just psyops within psyops, and the whole psyop is to confuse us, to keep us chattering about things and keep our minds so busy that we're just not looking. I mean, it's been said to death now within this community. That whole thing has been said to death. It's keeping us occupied so we're not getting serious about the stuff we need to get serious about.
Yeah. And so the CIA remote viewing, it was called Stargate. I mean, they probably had more than that, but the
Okay.
one from 1972 was Stargate. And the reason that I remembered was because of the new AI,
Right.
$500 billion AI project is also Stargate.
Yeah, okay, so that was the connection. Okay, there was one in the 80s as well. So, yes, I do remember now there was Stargate, because that made me sort of have the thought, and originally was sort of like, why is it the same name? There's got to be a link there. But there was another one. Anyway, doesn't matter. There was another one in the 80s, but it's all tied in, and it's all a
Yeah.
mind fuck, basically, because they're giving us all these names and things to... I mean, that's just confusing, isn't it? Why would they
Yeah.
do that? They don't use the same names twice unless there's a reason. So.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised, and 100% they are incorporating Elon Musk's Starlink to have a spy basically network around
100%.
the Earth. So yeah, there's something to it. And Jen says
A
that
smart planet.
they want us all to be psychic. We probably are. I
Mm.
agree. I think that humans probably, before we had our like before we were poisoned and had our pituitary gland fried by like fluoride or whatever, that there's probably a lot more ability for psychic activity and intuition with other humans, and certainly when we weren't as disconnected from the earth and the animals and the water and things like that, and like artificial blue light and screens and all this stuff.
Mm.
I do think there's something to
All
that,
the
but I
things.
think my opinion on the psychic that they want us to be now is because we're connected to each other with a neural lace, dystopian.
Well, it's sort of like they've killed the heart and just put everything into the mind. You know what I mean? Like, they just want to destroy the soul. If they can't own it, they want to destroy it. And they're never going to own it unless you willingly give it to them, which a lot of people are. So, Neuralink, yeah, I think Neuralink, to me, I just feel like that's this really archaic, old, clunky steampunk thing they pulled out just to say, hey, we're drilling into your head. Hope you don't mind. But actually what they're doing, it's more of a metaphorical drilling. As I've said ad nauseum, the space, the final frontier is the one between your ears. That's what they want. So I think it's so much more mind games. Listen to John Lennon. He knew. So many more mind games than we are really, really aware of. I think we keep getting distracted with the shiny carrot and never getting to the foundation. I'm not speaking for everybody, obviously, but just the generalness. And even, in the truth community, I think there's a whole army out to get us. You know what I mean? Like, we are in an echo chamber. Because I occasionally stray out and talk to normal people or whatever you want to call them, and just say, hey, do you know about this? And they know nothing about any of it. They don't even know about the World Economic Forum. They've never heard of Klaus Schwab. They don't know, just stuff that's just everyday peripheral stuff for us. It's like they've never heard of any of it. So we really are in an echo chamber.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's really difficult to be, but that's, it's difficult and isolating to feel like you are aware of what's going on and you're open to learning, you're opening to consider what's actually real, what's actually true, and then you're confronted with the people that are in these very confined boxes and they just simply don't have the bandwidth to think vertically or laterally and consider something outside of what they have always known. And there's a fear
Mm.
factor to them about that as well. That it is very scary to think that everything is a show. I don't know. For me, I think it's liberating. And once I started really thinking like that because it's a progression, right? Of thinking like of not for everybody. Some people were onto it a long time ago, but for me, it's been a progression of gradually trying to deprogram my way of thinking. No, I'm sure that I still have a lot of blind spots and that I still have programming that I'm not aware of, but I'm trying to, like we're talking about the onion analogy, peel that away. But so many people just don't have the ability to try to consider things from a different perspective at all or pursue anything that they're not specifically spoon fed, like you're saying, Stella. Like, I've never heard of the World Economic Forum. They don't talk about that on CNN or
Yeah.
BBC or whatever.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think they're just sending out these mind quakes. They're just trying to shake the foundation of people who do have a solid foundation, like, generally sort of awake-ish type people. All this terminology, I'm getting sick of it. It's just all been done to death. But yeah, they're sending out mind quakes. It's like, the earthquakes in the it just shakes the foundations and just makes people strips away the confidence, strips away all the good, all positive things about being a human. But so yeah, just got to be strong. Be strong. And turn the bloody thing off for a while too. Go out and hug a tree. Plenty of trees out there that need a damn good hug.
absolutely. Okay, so we've had some good discussion and we are over an hour, but I wanted to get my story in really quick. So what I wanted to talk to you about is that I have an article here from the Activist Post and it's been covered in more places, but Bill Gates says AI will replace doctors, teachers within 10 years and claims humans won't be needed for most things. And apparently part of
Okay.
this revelation came out on an interview that he did with Jimmy Fallon. So we can see that he's starting to kind of do the PR tour again, which is really interesting because he is very despised, at least by a lot of people in our community. And more often than not, if something is posted about him from his page on social media, the comments are turned off because people literally detest him. So, but I think that we can see this as perhaps a little bit more of not him just speculating. I think it's a little bit more like a threat coming from him. So, Bill Gates predicted that advancements in artificial intelligence will significantly reduce humanity's role in many traditional tasks such as medicine and education. And I'm not going to read the whole thing here, and it's not even a very long article anyway, but I wanted to just point out some quotes and how I think this is tying in. Another quote from him, it's very profound and even a little bit scary because it's happening very quickly and there's no upper bound, Gates told Brooks. So this was when he had a conversation with Arthur Brooks, a Harvard professor known for his research on happiness. And basically, he is referring to this as free intelligence. So we obviously know that it's not that. We know that they are putting the message out there like, this is going to be more accurate. This is going to be more accessible for you. This is going to be, better than what you currently have in the healthcare system. And then I think that thread ties in with gross incompetence that we're seeing over and over and over in these industries. So we know that we saw gross incompetence in the healthcare industry during COVID times, but if anybody was paying attention, it was gross incompetence for years and decades before that. And if you had a loved one who was in the meat grinder of the medical system, you had to be on top of your shit. You had to be advocating for them, you had to be asking questions, and you had to be paying attention. And if you weren't, some people found out the hard way. And I still don't think that it changed their paradigm or their view on the medical system, but it should have. And even leading into COVID times, the third leading cause of death in the United States was medical mistake. Okay.
Yeah.
That is not even including all the people that were, that the predators pounced on for the opioid crisis that led into people abusing pills, overdosing on pills, being addicted to pills, and then searching out heroin and then searching out readily available fentanyl. Now, I think that was part of the plan, part of the pipeline, but I digress. I'm just saying that we saw gross incompetence in that area. People have recognized it more than ever. And not only that, there you have the health insurance tie-in. So you have all of this rigmarole. Like here in the States, and I'm guessing it's the same way in Australia, Stella, you can let us know. But basically, you are in a situation where if you need to get something done, like you have a general practitioner doctor who's kind of overall managing things. Then let's say if you had an issue with your thyroid, for example, they're going to send you to an endocrinologist. If you had an issue with diabetes, then they're going to send you to like a diabetes specialist, or they'll send you to a pancreatic doctor. If you have a heart issue, they're sending you to a cardiologist, and on and on and on it goes. And there is no end to all of the specialists that they will refer you to. And of course, we saw so many people being put on the death protocol during COVID times when they were taken to the hospital, that I think that all of this, it serves a lot of different narratives. But the other thing that it does is decrease, like we talked about, it reduces trust in that industry. So you may be making something look good like AI healthcare. Like maybe people are like, oh, free healthcare or really cheap healthcare, and I can just use AI. But there's a lot that is, obviously missing. There's a lot of perils. There's a lot of pitfalls that go with that. And the same thing with education, right? Yeah, we think that the Department of Education is screwed. And a lot of people, especially on the conservative side, were cheering them getting rid of the Department of Education because of the damage that public school does to kids. I understand that, but what's waiting behind it is AI education.
Yeah. I mean, they've already taken away the books out of schools, haven't they? They've replaced them with tablets and things, which can easily be just reached in and changed on a whim. Apart from all the wavelengths and things they're all sitting in, that's another issue. But it's all editable, isn't it? I mean, everything is going to be editable from now on. And it's quite possible AI will even just be this perpetual editing machine. Who knows? I mean, that's only fed on the, crap in, crap out sort of thing. That's only fed on what's out there in the internet. I don't know how any of it can make any sense, to be quite honest, because there's so much mud. I mean, how does it sort out which
Right.
bit to actually bring and which bit not to when there's so many things? I mean, obviously there's some sort of confirmation type algorithms going on there, I guess, zeros and ones, but man, I mean, it's so complex. Hat off to the technos who made it, but now
It
you can
is
go
really
get stuffed.
complicated. Now, one thing that I will say that has been being done is they're having people in these specific industries spend time with AI, and they have no problem with it. Somebody in my life is spending time with AI who is in education, who's doing, working as an educator. So they're having humans train AI. And that's happening
Yeah.
right now and has been for at least a year. This person was
Yeah.
working with AI and they thought it
Mm.
was pretty cool. Meanwhile, I'm hearing this and I'm like, "Oh, this is horrifying. This is so awful." Um, but I think that they're making, the certain industries so bad that they're making people beg for something else. And especially if it can
Yeah.
be done more efficiently and cheaper and with a quote higher accuracy. And I think a lot of the information here in the States, because they have a good place to start, was that they know a handful of, let's say, the top 10 to 25 issues that they're dealing with. And you probably don't even need to go top 25, top 10: heart disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes. I mean, those are the big four right there. And so I think that they just start from the top, and they have a really well-worn protocol that they have exported basically all over the world for how to treat these issues. Even though if you've had somebody who is a loved one or a friend who's dealing with cancer, then it most of the time it's not treated, and it's definitely not cured. But what it does do is make that sick person, or make that person sick and dependent on the system until they end up, passing, and they can't be charged money anymore. They're not profitable for the system.
Just on that
And
subject of training AI, it's just very recently I've I've re-entered the look for a job mode because I'm just AI has has taken away quite a few of my jobs that I used to do as a graphic designer and a web designer, and etc. copywriter, etc. So yeah, I've just thought I need to get something else coming in because this is not good. So one of the only jobs in my area that I could possibly do, and that's because it's online, is to train AI. And I just went, you know what? I don't think I will. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't want to be part of it. So that's a bit of a bummer because that's the only thing I would have qualified for. However, I can't even get a checkout chick job at the moment. Getting rid of all the checkout chicks, at supermarkets. So yeah, I could sit down and train AI. And I sort of thought about, that could be fun actually. But they probably check your work.
yeah, that's true. I'm sure that they probably would. And if you were telling the AI anything that wasn't within the acceptable, allowable information, that you would get booted from the program.
Get the Terminator just zap you with his laser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway.
So one quick thing that I wanted to say, the other tie-in that I had here was that we have some really prominent cases that are out in the ether right now, court cases. And we know that like during COVID times too, there was the Depp Heard case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and a lot of people got involved in that, and they were streaming and talking and analyzing and all that stuff. And now we have, and this has happened with other true crime cases, and even Brad and Monica talked about it back in the day, because you had the Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie case where Gabby was murdered. And then part of that was they thought that it was multifaceted, as many things are, but basically it was a fact finding, it was an information dissemination, watching and seeing what kind of information, streaming, facts, truth, whatever you want to call it, that people came up with. And that culture has certainly continued. So we have a lot of online sleuths. Now, I think that can be that can hamper in some cases, and certainly it can be ruthless as far as sympathy for the family and the victim. However, I have seen a lot of people find really, really interesting things. But all this to say is that there is a court case that's happening right now in Boston of a woman who was accused of killing her boyfriend, who was a police officer at that time. And the case has been highly, highly divisive. It's all over online. They just released a documentary that was maybe like a 7-part series or something discussing the case. The first trial ended up being in a hung jury. And the tie-in that I wanted to make with that is that, yes, I do think this stuff is multifaceted, but I definitely think that we could be seeing a next push to make law and legal issues an AI, something that AI is determining or evaluating, or at least helping with. And then I wanted to throw in a quick blip from Back to the Future 2. There's actually predictive programming there when Doc Brown tells Marty McFly that because Marty is there, spoiler alert, he's there to save his son in the future. And the son was already sentenced and tried and in jail in 2 weeks. And Marty said, 2 weeks? And Doc was like, oh yeah, it's a lot faster here. They got rid of lawyers. So I just thought that was an interesting predictive programming that we saw all the way back from the 80s about the desire to really get rid of that. And as much negative things as we may want to say about the Department of Education or teachers or doctors or the medical system or the legal system, that's still better than AI.
Yeah, we can't blame the teachers for that sort of thing. I mean, not the genuine ones, because they're just following the curriculum, aren't they? It's always been way out of date, the curriculum. It's like it's always been 20 or 30 years too old, sort of thing. Just never kept up. So I guess there's reasons for that. They don't really they don't want to turn out a bunch of geniuses unless they have their own blood running through their veins. But I'm sorry if I misunderstood, but were you kind of alluding to, for instance, with the Heard versus Depp situation, that those kind of things are there to be training AI on a social level, because that has crossed my mind many times, whether a lot of these things, these projects are put out there to train AI, to dip the social thermometer into the public armpit, and then train them to see the reactions, the responses, etc., which is training AI. Do you think? Or
So that's a really good question, and I certainly think that that's a possibility. The way that I was looking at it was more of an information dissemination in online excuse me, in online culture, to see what okay, so this is what we show people in this situation that is outside technically of politics, but it's still well-known figures. Where does that information go? What
Mm.
do people take from it? What sides do they end up taking? What stands out to them? So maybe that the social reaction could be fed into AI, and I definitely think that's part of it. But I was just looking at it as them just studying the path of this information online. So basically, like if we were doing an injection in the body and you're watching it on an X-ray, where does that injection travel? Does it travel to the liver? Does it travel to this corner of TikTok? That kind of thing.
I think you're pretty much saying the same thing, really, because everything is going to be training AI. Everything that happens, every bloody move we make is going to be training is and has been for quite some time, a long time before
Sure.
we even knew it existed, obviously. But I mean, that sussing out the social thermometer of the temperature of people, etc., and where they're heading and how much bullshit. I mean, MK Ultra, it never finished. Operation
No.
Mockingbird, it never finished.
No.
They just make out as if, oh, that's this thing we were doing back then. Here's the papers. It's like, yeah, okay, that was that stage back then. But, oh, boy, you've come a long way. And somebody, I think it was Tim, said that, Russia had been doing a lot of psychological sort of experiments for decades as well. And supposedly, with the remote viewing, etc., decided, oh, no, that doesn't work at all. We're going to abandon that now. It's like, okay.
Right. Yeah. These
so you
programs never
where
go
they're
away
at.
for sure.
Yeah, why would they stop?
Exactly.
sure.
They wouldn't. And, Obama, was it 2013 or 14 or something, where he dropped the whole, you can't do, propaganda war on your own people. It's like, oh, no, it's okay now. Off you go. Open the floodgates for everybody's
for sure.
mind to be raped and pillaged. But anyway, it's all good
Yeah.
fun.
And the other thing that I wanted to say about that was in training AI 100%, because you reminded me of something. So a lot of people were like talking about TikTok before TikTok was banned, another psyop.
Yeah.
But they were talking about that and a lot of people, especially on the right, were like, oh, I don't want to have a Chinese spy app on my phone. I don't want an app from China having access to my data, blah, blah, blah. So they ended up not having TikTok, whatever. But actually the database and who was running TikTok here was Larry Ellison. That is who is still, to my understanding, to my knowledge, who is running that, which is the CEO and the founder of Oracle. And he also is involved in the project Stargate, the $500 billion AI project. He is working hand in hand with President Trump. He was involved in the press conferences. He's also the same guy that's talking about the mRNA cancer vaccines. So you're 100% right, because a lot of this information dissemination, watching the algorithm, and a lot of the sleuther videos are coming out of TikTok. So there we go.
Believe none of what you see and even less of what you hear. Question everything. Grasshopper.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
So I know we've gone over, but I have really enjoyed the conversation with you guys tonight. I really appreciate you here. I appreciate our chat. We have had a lively chat tonight, which is always really, really fun. So I just want to shout those people out. Jen, Gentleman Skeptic, Tim, Collecting Unfiltered News Tube Service joined us. Kill joined us. Stu joined us. Joe Tundra joined us. Dream, and I want to make sure I say this correctly.
Dream Real
joined us. And then over on Rumble, we had Twilight Shadow, we had Knights of the Storm. And so I just wanted to thank everybody so much for showing up for us and chatting. We
Yeah,
really
thanks a
truly
lot,
appreciate
everyone.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Love
has
your
been a
guts.
lot of fun. And before we get out of here, I was just wondering, do either of you guys have a question that you wanted to ask me? I feel like Kill always has a question for me.
Well, I could sort of do a little bit of self-promo just before we go, maybe?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Absolutely.
Because I forgot to do it last time. Not that I'm into self-promoing, but if anybody wants to make a little bit of sense out of some of the weather stuff that's going on at the moment, because that's another psyop within psyop within psyop. It's conspiracies and about conspiracies. So I've just sort of started this show called Whether or Not, and it's very kind of, it's a bit lame and boring in some sense. It's very data-driven, but there's lots of receipts about how the weather does actually work with, we bring a lot of sense about how the weather cycles have worked for things like Hurricane Helene, the flooding in UAE, etc., like that. So if that sort of thing tickles your little fancy, come along and join the channel and have a bit of a look. There's not like a regular output or anything. I don't care about algorithms. It's just I was learning about stuff and just sort of hit record at the same time. So that's what I've been doing, but that's just an occasional thing. But I've been enjoying that. It's to do with Jim Lee as well, climateviewer.com, and all the wonderful people over in that Telegram chat. So thanks for the invitation for today as well. Much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Always good to see you guys.
Yep, you too. And I have talked about your work, your channel, Whether or Not here, and I've also talked about it on Knights of the Storm as well.
Look, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Look, I do pre say it's kind of boring so that people know that they're not going there for this really entertaining thing. But if you can get past the geek gate, welcome. Because I've become a bit of a geek and it's a good place to be. It's fun. I love my geek friends.
I just posted the link to your YouTube in the chat.
Yep, Perm just dropped
thank you.
there.
Thank you, my friend. That's just to my channel. Yeah, so you just go to the podcast section and yep. Awesome. Thank you.
All
No
right.
problem.
Well, anything else? Anything?
Perm Nation. What's going on with Perm Nation? Anything?
Not a whole lot. Just hanging out in the Discord and trying to get on a lot more often than I had been over the last year or so. So I really love these chats, and I missed my family, my online family. So it's been great to be back.
Very glad to have you and have you be here a lot more often. It's been really good.
Absolutely. Band's back together. Keelthor. Oh, he just happens to say, I wonder how someone might get in touch with the UOTUS crew. The Union of the Unknowns crew. How would that be, Ashley? Would you know?
Well, permnation.com will take you to our Linktree. But
all right,
we have other ways as well.
There's one way.
I was just getting ready to say, well, Kill, I'm glad you asked. You can find us at unionoftheunknowns.com. That is our Linktree page with all the myriad ways to get in touch with us. And Perm does have the page. So does Terry. I forget what Terry's page is called though, but anyway, it does link all the ways to get in touch with us, and that includes our Discord, email, Twitter, all the things. So,
and if you want to email me directly, it's bigperm@permnation.com. I noticed Jen said something about coming on his podcast, and I'd love to do that. So if you want to shoot me an email there, that works.
Yeah, good to see Jen again. It's been ages.
For sure. And I just did a show with Jen not too long ago. I'm not sure when that's coming out, but and we have one coming up. So a lot of fun.
Nice.
Thank you guys so much for for your support and for doing shows with us. We love it. We love you.
Yep. Excellent. All right.
All righty, everybody. Well, we are going to go ahead and get out of here. I want to thank you all again so much. I had a absolutely great time, and we will hopefully see you all again very, very soon.
Love you guys.
And yeah, we do. Absolutely. We will talk to y'all later. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Not Your Mama's News has been a production of the Union of the Unknowns podcast. New episodes are available weekly on all your favorite podcasting networks.